Some say it's all about 1925 and beyond. The podcast. KC 100 year celebration with Pete A. Kennedy and Marlon A. Kennedy.
Welcome. It's another session of the 1925 and Beyond podcast. I'm your co-host, Pete A. Kennedy, and I'm here with co-host Big Brother Marlon A. Kennedy, and we have another special guest for you. But before we get to the guest, let's drop a little credit. I went to KC between the years of 92 to 95, played Coles 93, 94, 194, and in 95 moved on to Manning Cup. But like you've heard from every one of us, it doesn't stop there. But before we get to the guest, let me get you over to Big Brother Marlon A. Kennedy.
Thanks, Pete. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of 1925 and Beyond. Co-host Marlon Kennedy also attended KC from 1986 to 1993, and I played cricket and captained the school team at all three levels. So again, it's our pleasure to bring another distinguished guest. Prior to us starting this recording, we spoke to our guest, Colin Gabay, correct? Gabay is the correct pronouncing?
That's correct.
Colin Gabay, he's the president of the Old Boys Association UK chapter. And I must say, we've been trying for so long to get through to Colin, but the word has spread. He has answered our call and not seen the Jamaican number and think it's probably somebody trying to scam him with a foreign accent to get some British pounds off him, but he has answered our call. So Colin, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Welcome, sir.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here, gentlemen, and a pleasure to be sharing with you guys and everyone.
Thank you, Colin. We appreciate that. So, in true fashion, Colin, we always ask our distinguished guests to start us off by telling us their story with a bit about themselves before KC, where they grew up and all of that sort of thing.
Okay, so I grew up in the hills of West Rural St. Andrew, in Stony Hill. It's not so rural anymore. Mm-hmm. But that's where I grew up. I went to Mona Prep as a preparator before common entrance, before entering KC. At Mona Prep, I wasn't really athletic, and that never really followed me through, apart from being a support. Yeah. But I certainly had a good and rounded education at Mona Prep, and met lots of people, and made a few good friends, lifelong friends there. Very few of who went to Kingston College. Only one or two, Douglas Gray and Mark Simmons, were the two who went from Mona Prep, apart from my younger brother and my older brother, who also attended KC.
Okay,
nice. So all your siblings went to Mona Prep as well?
Yeah, all my siblings went to Mona Prep. My older brother, who graduated in 74, and my younger brother, who graduated in 75. Yeah, and we all went to the college. How we got to the college, you're probably wondering, coming from all the way up there. Well, my dad was born on Arnold Road and grew up in the 20s, and he's a Kingston man. And he went to Kingston College. He's a Kingston College old boy. And he instilled those traditions and spirits in us, growing up. So naturally, it was only fitting, and we all went on to KC. There was no question about where else would we go. It was just we were heading downtown to North Street, the Fortress. So that was a journey from prep school to KC.
So Colin, did you have any sisters?
Yes, sister who went to St. Hugh's. She was a Swan, and so it was four of us in all, 3 boys and a girl at the end.
So the brothers and sister went to the brother and sister
school. Yeah,
definitely, without a doubt.
Your father, your parents had it locked, man.
Well, his sister also went to St. Hugh's.
Okay.
So
oh my God!
It was like a family tradition.
Yeah.
The deck was set.
The deck was set, so there was no choice. There was no option, and no alter. No one wanted to do anything else, so that was just the way it was in those days.
No, Colin, for the audience who have actually probably seen when you said Arnold Road, and I'm doing like this just to be clear that we were raised on Arnold Road as well. So we're from Almontown. So that is the correlation to us kind of secretly busting a blank because that's a Almontown, I would say, neighbor or fellow camaraderie from the city.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's where he was born, and he grew up in Kingston, and he attended the college, and he went on to provide support on the board, especially in the 70s. He was on the board of KC, so he made his contribution, right the way through as well.
Wow.
And Colin, I don't want you to feel that you're coming from far because we actually interviewed an old boy who selected KC, and his primary school was in Ocho Rios, because he said that when he saw that KC was doing well at school challenge quiz and them thing, them say KC Mongo. So he wasn't picking for Fern Court and any school in St. Anne's. Went straight to Kingston College. So you're a little bit closer than others, Colin. But I do understand coming off the hill, coming from Stony Hill back in those days.
I was lucky enough sometimes, usually, to get a drive into school, to make it on time. And usually I miss breakfast because I'm not a morning person. But I remember on quite a few occasions when I was holding everybody up, my school bag reached school. When I reached KC, my bag is on my desk already. It's like, find your way to school.
That's a good one.
Those were good, relaxed days getting in.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So what year is it that you started the college, since it was a family tradition for you to get in?
So I started in 1972.
Got it.
1972. I took the common entrance exam with KC as my first choice. Yeah, and by the grace of God, I was successful and very happy to be attending KINGSTON College. I must say it was a bit daunting when you're going to a big school from primary school or prep school, and you're stepping out in your khakis with your tie on, and you're out in the big, big world. And it was daunting, but it was fantastic at the same time. Classmates, making new friends, doing new things, meeting new teachers, learning new things. It was an excellent experience in first and second form. And the vice principal at the time was Mr. Bruce, and he was a strict one. Mr. Bruce was. He didn't take any prisoners.
Cane Juice Bruce.
Cane Juice Bruce.
We heard the stories about Cane Juice Bruce.
Yes.
He didn't take any prisoners, but I don't think it did any of us any real harm, to be fair. And I was introduced to people like Helen Douglas, Mrs. Riley, and others who were teachers then at Melbourne.
So before you started your journey at KC, Colin, the fact that you had brothers that were there ahead of you, you must have heard a lot of stories. You must have, you see how they act as KC students. So, what were the things that you were anticipating going to KC starting?
I think my anticipation was just this journey to an institution that was, yes, outstanding, because my brother played basketball and did a few other things, and went to a few basketball matches. But yes, it was to be able to participate in my high school in an institution that was, highly regarded and highly respected, and which I was sure was going to provide me with what I needed in life, really. So it was that kind of eager anticipation that you have as a bit of fear, but into the unknown.
Yeah.
But certainly, maybe because I had that built-in 40s spirit, as a son of an alumni who lives the 40s spirit, I think I came in through the door with that spirit already, and just felt and lived it from the first day.
Nice. So I know you said that you took first and second form to acclimatize and get yourself in. So what were your years like at KC? What were they, what was it like at school then for you in particular, the friends that you made, the good time, bad times, what was school life for you?
I used to look forward to going to school every day, to meet up with my mates, my classmates. There was never a dull moment, either in classes or in between classes. And the process of making friends and participating in school life was just absolutely amazing. I really look forward to every day. Summer holidays were much too long. I couldn't wait to get back to that doesn't say I didn't enjoy the summer holidays, but when September came, I was really looking forward to getting back to KC. And by second form, you've got a first form below you, so you have a bit of experience and a bit of confidence. So yeah, that was good. And I think in second form, I was confirmed at KC by Reverend Ramsey. Well, I did the confirmation classes with Reverend Ramsey, and Bishop Swaby did the confirmation. So I was still, tentatively at North Street in the chapel, and experiencing that. In first form, Mr. Forrest, it was mandatory to be auditioned for the choir. So in first form, I got auditioned for the choir.
Everyone had to audition?
Pretty much everyone had to do an audition of, Mr. Forrest would come and you have to do an audition on the piano. I ended up doing the choir as well. So, I really enjoyed singing, so it was good. And it was one of my main extracurricular activities in first and second form. Well, right through until fourth form at least.
Okay, so because I was just about to ask Colin, because we have interviewed a few old boys, and there were a few of them that started out in the choir, but as soon as puberty kicked in, a little bass start hit them voice, they couldn't sing, they couldn't make those notes like they used to, and they had to come out of the choir after a while. But you said you went all the way up to fourth form in the choir.
That's right. And I quit because the bass wouldn't come into my voice. I was like, nah, too much of this singing.
Opposite.
I didn't really quit, but I ended up as a first tenor. But I got involved in other things in North Street. So there's a choir. I was in the Key Club. I was president of the Key Club for quite a while. And so I had that going on at the same time, and that was quite good fun. Interacting with the other schools. There was one at St. Hugh's. There was one at Calabar. There were in Fern Court in Ocherias. Yeah, there were different key clubs, so there were lots of activities, and we were actively working in service at that time under the sponsorship of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston. I attended a few. I attended one convention in Kingston, Ontario, in around 1975, representing Jamaica and KC. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. And I remember we used to do projects. We had all kinds of projects, and I think we were the first group that one Labor Day we decided we're going to paint the walls outside North Street purple and white. And I think that was the first time. The walls were originally a grayish color. I mean, the brick color, the color of the bricks. So we decided to paint the school colors on the walls. So I remember that project. That was a great Labor Day. And thinking back, that was the first time we splashed the colors out on North Street.
And I think from then on, that set the trend with the colors and tone of the the exterior walls of the school.
Yeah.
I would hope so. But yes, in retrospect, it possibly did.
Yeah, excellent. That's good to hear. So did you, for your school years now, did you 5 years or did you go to sixth form and end up doing 7?
Okay, so I did 5 years, and then I went to sixth form, and I didn't do that well in my A levels. So I came back and did a few more courses again at A levels.
Mm-hmm.
So I was around during those years. I was around. Sports Day was a memorable. Sports Day was one of those days that was just amazing. All we needed was a One Love sound system, and it would have been even better. But yeah, I did. I went up to fifth form, and then I went to lower six. And in 1977, when I was in lower six, we had that fire.
Okay.
And that fire was really devastating in so many ways, because that fire, it brought out the 40 spirit, but it was also a very painful incident for everyone. Yeah. And I remember coming into the college a day after the fire, because I was so far away, I didn't know what happened. I heard it on the news in the morning, and when I got to North Street, there were almost tears in my eyes when I saw the devastation of the fire.
Wow.
And I remember going to Miss Douglas, and saying to Miss Douglas, we need to have a tag drive. We need to get some money. We need to have this. We can't wait. We need to have this thing now. We need to get out there and start raising money to replace it. And I think I spoke with Mr. McNabb, Reverend McNabb as well, and a few other teachers, Michael Bennett and a few others who were, movers and shakers. And we ended up with a tag drive. And I remember during that tag drive, the Jolly Joseph Jamaica Omnibus Service, as it was called at the time, if you had a KC tie on that day, you didn't pay bus fare. And we went all over Kingston and St. Andrew.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad you raised that point, Colin, because when we spoke to Miss Douglas, she also said that. She said that coming out of that fire, one of the things she appreciated was not only the school spirit internally, but the school spirit externally, because she said with that tag drive, the students went across the island. And not only did they get buses, the JOS bus, they said other schools donated their bus. So Calabar, this, that, I get KC student them bus to drive around the island and do, that drive. So that is good to hear. Is again
from a student
from another
perspective.
source.
Yes.
No, it was an amazing day. It was like marshalling the troops, and everyone went off with their prefect or sub-prefect went off with different groups to different places.
Mm-hmm.
And that night I was in the principal's office while the tins were coming in. And I tell you, I've never seen so much cash in all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was opening tins and tins and tins and counting and counting. Yeah, I felt, the response from the community was overwhelming, all aspects of the community. I was down on Spanish Town Road and walking Spanish Town Road in some of those communities. And in those days, they weren't very well off, those communities. Life was hard. But no, everyone in those communities gave some money. KINGSTON College, yes. And, if it was 10 cents, 5 cents, whatever it was, everybody put a little money in the tin. That was for me one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And I think, a lifelong experience. I'll never forget that experience.
True example, a 1-1 Coca full basket. My gosh.
1-1. And also the 40 spirit, it showed that, people respected the 40 spirit and everything that KINGSTON College stood for in all levels of society.
No, Mr. Colin, I don't think Marlon and I get to ask Miss Douglas this, and I don't know the answer. And if you don't know, it's fine. But what caused that fire at that time? Was it just an accident, or what had caused the fire to happen?
I don't think we ever actually heard what was the end result of the investigation. You know, there was never really any consensus in terms of what was the result, you know, what was the cause of the fire.
Okay. So I'm going to say, for any of our listeners at this moment, put in the comment if you have any history of what caused the KC fire. We'd love to hear it. So drop it in the comments if you know. Go ahead, Marlon.
Well, you know, sometimes some people throw some conspiracies, you know, say, boy, either there was an old boy back then that had his homework due and never prepare, or a man have never studied for, so him just say, yeah, well, I do this to them, man.
It was
so
really
conspiracy.
Tough. I know, but it was really tough for a lot of people because that was in May and exams were in June. You know, all the, you know, we take exams in those classrooms. So, you know, it was a big challenge, but yeah, it was difficult time. But, you know, coming out of that also, we'd lost Manning Cup that year to Calabar. And the following year, we also lost to Calabar. And the morale was kind of getting a bit low in the school. And again, I think this was the inception of the march from KC to the stadium. A group of us got together with, again, Miss Douglas, Mr. Bryan, Wally Johnson. And we said, why don't we show our 40 spirit and just get the troops to march? We get the cadet band to march with us and play the marching tunes. And we marched from KC all the way up to the stadium.
Yeah.
And that was the first time. And that also was impressive. We had,
nice.
I remember we had the police motorcycles at the head of the, you know, managing the traffic. And 1,500 boys. There were no other supporters at the time, just us and our teachers. And we marched to the stadium. And that year, to be honest, we didn't have the best team. Calabar was still running hot. But we got in that stadium, and with the 40 spirit, you know, we lifted our athletes across the finish line. And I tell you, that spirit is something else. That was the first time, you know, I actually saw the spirit in action. When we started shouting, we're at the back of the race. And when we start shouting, those guys said they just feel a force lift them across the finish line. So guys, don't stop shouting. Whether we're winning or we're losing, you keep shouting that spirit.
Boy, Colin, I tell you, you know, I was in, Pete and I were in the stadium earlier with champs this year for our 100. And I tell you, we have to hand it to the drummers at the KC Cadet, because I tell you, for hours calling the man him just a beat, and may I tell you, it's not only KC, you know, everybody in the stadium are rocking up, because the man them have some the rhythm of the drums, you know.
Man.
And what some people don't know from a military perspective as well, you know, it's the drummer and the bugler that chants and lifts the morale for the troops. So even when they're down, once you hear your drummer playing the beat of your regimental march, that is what spurs the soldier on. And it's the same mindset with us at school. And I must say, Colin, now that the march now is now a stable thing, one. And people, we're not talking students, people, non-KC, people take the day.
We have our cheerleaders now, our girl in the front, man.
Yes,
a girl in the front that dance and them thing they know at KC.
Yes.
You don't know which other school have that.
So Colin, you got 2 checks there, you know, the painting, and you got the march, you know. So we can end this one. You know why you take all the winning so far, you know, Colin. I tell you.
No. It was so it did its job, and I think, you know, I see the tradition carrying on from then, and you know, it's gone on and on and on, and it's just amazing, and it's a good indicator of where we are, and it shows our strength and our unity. And the fact that it's, all our supporters over the years, because let's face it, it's more than 40 years since I left KC.
Yeah.
And the good thing, Colin, is that, a suggestion like that, was accepted by the academic administration. As you say, you spoke to Miss Douglas and others, and them say, all right, yeah, I could do it. And as you say, one of the reasons was that the morale was not there coming out of the past to, defeats in Manning Cup and so forth. So yes, it does.
Yeah, it was a difficult time after the fire, and I think we needed to galvanize ourselves. And yeah, it was a good thing that came out of it, and it's still a good thing. So I never thought it would be like that in the long term, but for that moment, that's what we needed, and that's what we did together. And it was
And one of the message we can say coming out of this interview, Colin. So for those who will be watching this particular podcast, this particular episode, is that whenever we are a little bit down, we don't give up, because we never yield. Never yield. Get the drums out.
Yes.
Get the drums out. Let's start a thing.
Yes.
All right, Colin. So whilst you're at KC, I know you said that, that's where you made lifelong friends and all of that. So one of the questions we asked our distinguished guest is, was there anyone in particular, or group of persons that would have left a lasting impact on you? And it's not limited to, your peers, fellow students. It can include old boys back then, also teachers, administrators, or supporters. And in true fashion, Colin, every old boy starts by apologizing for those he's going to leave off. But go ahead.
To single out any one person, when you make a journey like that together with a group of youngsters coming up from first form, and as you progress, there are people ahead of you and people below you. And you make friendships across those years. When I was in third form, I had friends in sixth form, and I had friends in first form. Every experience shapes the future, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'd say is that there was always respect amongst each other. And no matter whatever disagreements we had internally, once we hit the streets, we were united. We never aired our dirty linen in public. We dealt with it, and we moved on and became closer and more and stronger together. There's so many people, to name a few, who, for me, Michael Bennett was a big influence in terms of his solid. He was just solid. He was principled. He was Michael Bennett. Q, we used to call him
Q Bennett, yeah, man.
Q Bennett. There was Foggy Burrows in the early days when I was I used to swim in second form. I did some swimming, but I had an allergy to the chlorine. I couldn't swim because I had allergies to chlorine.
Got it.
But Foggy was something else, and he used to give you that spot pinch.
Right, yeah, so.
Yes, right there. But Foggy was a brilliant guy. Wire Terps. There are just so many. Mr. McDonald, the maths teacher, Mr. Bean. We had Mr. Bean teaching physics, among other things. He was a character, a good character, but tough as well. We had so many influences from so many people that were positive and uplifting. I'd say for me, the closest one that I really had was Miss Douglas. I used to consult Miss Douglas almost daily.
Good.
I'm sure I had a conversation with her almost every day. I'd head into the staff room and just have a chat with Miss Douglas. So there were just so many people. And the whole experience was just one amazing experience.
Yeah.
I was in the same form with Charlton Colley, Stephen Bassiani, Delana
Okay.
to name a few, Oliver Smith. You know, there's so many. You know, we were quite a force to be reckoned with on reflection. But yeah, we had good influences, good from our teachers, good guidance, and I'm sure we challenged them, but we were always respectful. So, you know, it's a difficult one, really.
We understand. You understand, Colin. So tell us the story now as it continues with you after KC. So having done your years, 5th form, 6th form, what was the next step for you?
Okay, so after I left 6th form, I was fortunate enough to go to Florida to study computer science.
Nice.
In 1979. And in those days, we had a computer science program, but it was more math-based. And I wasn't a good mathematician, but I had programming skills. They said I had the aptitude. I had aptitude. I did some aptitude tests. So I went to Miami and I studied computing. And one of my professors, who was an ex NASA, he worked on the Apollo missions. He was my advisor, and he really spent a lot of time with me. And I got a pretty good foundation there. After that, I came back to Jamaica. I worked briefly at the National Housing Trust, and then I worked at the Heart Trust under Dr. Joyce Robinson, just when it was starting, doing some software development for a trainee register to help with registering trainees. So I spent about 5 years with the Heart Trust doing that as a counterpart with some foreign experts. From there, I went to National Cash Register, which was NCR, and I did some software development. I did some software implementation like payrolls in different companies around Jamaica. And eventually they sent me off to Curacao to install one of the first Unix systems. So yeah, that was good experience.
Yeah.
I also came back and taught. I taught at Excelsior for 2 years, Excelsior College, Community College. Taught computer science at Excelsior Community College for 2 years. And yeah, that was a very good experience. We didn't have computers in high schools then, or that. Joined the Computer Society. We did outreach. Ended up in 1993 or thereabouts at Fiscal Services, working on revenue administration software, and that's what I do now. I develop software. After leaving them in 1998, I came to the UK and joined an international development company, and still doing software development in revenue administration, and basically traveled sub-Saharan Africa, Caribbean, UK. I went as far as Kyrgyzstan and a few other of those Asian countries. So yeah, I did that. Then my software, then I joined a company in Kenya. They had a UK office as a product director for software. And I'm still there as a product director. And I manage teams in India, Kenya, Uganda, Sierra Leone. So yeah, that's what I do basically now. I encourage people to be the best that they can be.
Yeah,
so
come on now.
That's, you just gave us quite a lengthy spiel there, Colin. So one of the things we want to find out, because when our old boys make the transition from Jamaica to a foreign country, what led to that? What led to, because you said you started with a company in the UK, but what led to that? What was that influence? What triggered you to say, let me go for this, let me take on this opportunity?
I felt that I needed to do more. I worked hard in Jamaica, and I think I did a lot in Jamaica in terms of development. It was 15 years after university. I'd done a lot, but I needed a broader horizon. I needed to do more, and this opportunity allowed me to do more in a global sense.
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity. I felt it was an adventure, much like going to KC first form. It was an adventure. You don't know what to expect, but with the 40 spirit and the drive for excellence, you just do your best every day. At the end of every day, you must be able to say, "I've done my best today," and I took on the experiences with an open mind, and I learned from some experiences. I gave some of my experience to other people, and it was great working with people in other countries to basically spreading the 40 spirit, because none of those assignments were ever easy. It's a lot of mentoring, a lot of support to young people in those places. So that was it. It was a difficult. It was good for me because I think there wasn't a lot of scope for me to grow creatively. The resources were not available in Jamaica to allow me to achieve that, which it wasn't my objective, but my objective was to broaden my experience and to make a contribution, and to be able to do it on a global level was quite challenging and something that I really enjoyed.
So before we get into the whole part of the UK chapter, the OBA, for persons who make transitions like this, what was the most difficult thing for you coming from Jamaica and living and settling in the UK? And don't say the weather. Everybody knows English weather is but yeah, what was difficult?
The weather is the least of it. The weather make you look forward to coming home. So the biggest challenge was to know yourself, because there are a lot of people who try to put you down. And I think Casey gave me that confidence of having an identity and having the ability to know who I was and where I was coming from, and also to understand that the brave may fall but never yield. So I never yielded in any circumstance. But, sometimes you have to keep your mouth and keep your own counsel, and do things understand how the system works, and use the system to your benefit as best as you can, rather than let the system get on top of you. The most difficult thing, I think, was the fact that I was on my own and I had no support base. So when you come on your own and you have no support base, you don't have any family, you don't have any friends. You have to, and I thought I was more or less a bit of an introvert, which I probably wasn't, but in my own self, I probably thought that I was.
Yeah.
But, it forces you to be open-minded. It forces you to go after what you want even more, not be shy, and to also be able to engage people. But yeah, not having that fallback base was a challenge.
Excellent. So now let's move into the aspect of the Old Boys Association in UK. How did you get involved with that? Were you one of the founding members or so forth? But how did all that take place?
Okay, so I was roped in by O'Neill 40 Psalms. I met him on the train. It's quite funny, actually. I was on the train.
For the record, I know O'Neill Sams. I played cricket with him at KC.
Okay.
And I can tell there's a huge age gap between you and O'Neill. So let's hope that you were not reprimanding him as a stray 40-son, but let's hear the story.
Yeah,
Big up
no,
O'Neill
no,
Sams.
Big up Mr. Sams. We've got to recognize Mr. Sams for the networker that he is, an excellent networker and a historian. He certainly has access to all the history. So I was on the train going to work one morning, and Sams was sitting across from me on the train, and I noticed he had on a KC ring, because I still have I still wear my KC ring.
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, it's a Fortis man." Okay, so I asked him, I said, "Where you get that ring from?" You're Fortis man?
Not that he's a Fortis man, you know. Where you get that ring from?
Yeah, man. Challenge him proper.
Yes.
You're a Fortis man? And he said, yeah. So I was in communication with him, and he told me about a group of guys who were here, who he was in touch with, who were, did a few projects back at home. They were an informal group. So during COVID, during lockdown, we got together and we would meet regularly. Every week we touch bases to make sure everyone's fine, and just for the mental health and to keep the links going and to keep things going. And then during that time, we decided, I suggested to them that if we really want to do this, we need to formalize it and create a charity. So together, we all came together, and we formally created the group. So there were people like, there was O'Neill, there was Vincent Bent, Gary Roden, and many others, Raymond, many others, Dre. We all got together every week, and so we started fundraising during lockdown. There was a need for computers and tablets and stuff like that. And we managed to get some sent to Jamaica, and that was our first major input as a group going forward. 2 years ago,
2020.
That was in 2020. Yeah. 2 years ago, we got formally registered as a charity. We finally managed to get all the paperwork through with the support of Garth Dallas. We've managed to get the charity up. In the meantime, we have fundraising events. There's only a small group of us here. There's 12. Yeah. And Kevin, our secretary, he keeps us all on our toes. So, that's it. We've been going from strength to strength. We have an annual walk, which is our major fundraising event. And we do raffles, and we reach out to the community. We'd really love more UK Fortis to join us and to participate and help us raise more funds. But that is what it is. People have commitments, but we just hope that they're able to support us as best they can. Last year, we reached one of our milestones in awarding scholarships. We've always wanted to do a scholarship thing. So we started with 3 youngsters. We've made contributions to the choir. We sent cadet boots to the cadet unit. Yeah, we sent quite a few cadet boots down so that they could, when they're on parade, they have some really nice boots. Sorry. We support, we have a little feeding program going through the guidance counselor, a meal program so that anyone who is in need can get something to eat, make sure that people have something to eat. We support the table tennis team. We've done some work for the swim team. So our resources aren't large, but we focus more on welfare and the forgotten area. Track and field and football are well supported. So we're really looking at the areas that are not getting much support. And welfare is our primary objective, like many of the other chapters. Yeah.
I like that. I definitely like that because there's another old boy that shared his story that it was somebody who supported him through his entire KC career and journey that truly propelled him. So to hear that is glad to see that still continues today, because sometimes the track and field and the sports, Manning Cup, get that focus. Not saying that they shouldn't get some support, but like you said, some of the single parents and the guys who are coming that also need that welfare support need it as well. So very glad to hear that the UK group is doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely, and we've got a couple of members who are also have been supported in that way in the past, and they are committed to ensuring that we do what we can, and that is our nice. primary focus there.
Nice.
Yeah, we also support the choir. If I didn't mention, we get the choir annually. We give them a stipend. So, our objective now is to get as much as we can together. Everything that we raise goes. We don't have many overheads or any overheads. Any overheads we have come out of dues or
good.
Dues.
Good.
But every penny that we raise goes directly to the college. We engage with Madam Hall, the vice principal, and the guidance counselor and the bursar. And of course, there's always Mr. Myrie there. He's come and been our guest many times. So we do what we can, but those are the areas that we're focusing on.
So does the chapter have a website or social media handle? Because what we want to do is to ensure that, for any old boy that's watching this that lives in the UK, how do they get in touch with you guys so that they can be a part of the association?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, KCOBA UK-EU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we decided we're ambitious. We're covering all the old boys in Europe as well.
Yeah, man.
As I say, we're on Instagram and Facebook. We have a website. It needs a bit updating, but we do have a website. Just Google KCOBA UK-EU.
And there's information on it to contact persons.
There's information on contact and a little bit about what we are and what we do.
Excellent. Well, as one of the newer chapters, it's good to see the work that you're doing and the fact that, you are a bit more, you're spreading yourself outside of the traditional support of the football and track and field and go to other areas. And I know that from when I spoke to Richard, he said that, the meetings that the presidents, the heads of the respective associations, when you meet, that you make sure that you're not crossing wires and everybody is on a certain path. So everything goes towards KC, but there's very little repetition or redundancy. And we really appreciate that. It's very good to hear that, Colin.
Definitely.
Your team's small, but I saw you go with England, a little but on the Talawatu, some Brits work, I don't want to use the word stingily, but it go already.
No.
Get the thing done.
It's hard to come by, but easy to go, so we just have to be very careful with what little.
Of course. And the pound's strong already, so we make the most of it as well.
Definitely. Long may it last.
KINGSTON College Old Boy Association, UK and Europe. You have the inquiries there at KCOBA Europe, UK-Europe.org. So, as you mentioned, Sir Gabay, that it needs a little bit of updating. It's fine, but as you see here, ladies and gentlemen, you can reach out and actually get some details here. Let me swing this accord, and I know we're just dropping, but here you can actually see a little bit of the details in regards to what you can and how you can contact these guys. So good stuff. Keep up the great work, man.
Thanks. We look forward to all the support of all those old boys in the UK. And we'll continue to
the
do the
EU.
best for KC and the EU.
And the EU. Stretch it, stretch it.
And KC is our focus, 100%.
Amen. So Colin, what we always ask our distinguished guests as well is, you know, after going through their unique stories, is to one, wish KC happy 100, and two, to leave a positive message to the current student body, teachers, administrators that are there in the thick of things now.
Okay, so Kingston College, congratulations. We've made it 100 years. Bishop Gibson would be really proud of everything that we have achieved, and so would the other benefactors. And there are so many benefactors along the way who have made it possible for you to be here and for us to be here today, without any names. But in spirit, we recognize them. For you guys who are there now, remember that, you know, you're going through a period with KC on the ascendancy, and we're at the top of our game in every single aspect. It's not easy when you're at the top to maintain it at the top, but you have to leave a good legacy for the generations that come after you. And remember that no man is an island. And remember also that pride goeth before a fall, as Bishop Gibson says. So be proud and be humble, and also wear your successes on your sleeves, but be kind and keep the fire burning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Colin. Pete.
Wow. Wear your successes on your sleeve. My gosh, Mr. Colin Gabay, KC Old Boy, President of the UK and EU. I want to extend it to the Europe. But when you talk about legacy, you're a man that have left a legacy for myself. That march from KC to stadium was a life-changing experience. As you can see, our backdrop behind us, the walls are painted in purple and white, a legacy that you were a part of. Thank you for your contribution, sir. Thank you for your time. And thank you for still being involved, a part of KC and what we do. We cannot wrap up any session without saying the greatest motto that came out of the greatest institution. And you said it, all KC Old Boy have to lead to it somehow because it's the foundation of what we do. But we have to say it because it is 1925 and Beyond podcast. And it goes like this. Fortis. Cadere. Cedere. None potest. The brave may fall, but never yield. Thank you, Mr. Colin. We appreciate it. See you on the next 1925 and Beyond podcast. It gets sweeter, sweeter, and sweeter. KC 100. Cheers.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you, Pete.
You're welcome, sir. Colin. Anytime.